Good afternoon, everybody. Happy 2023. I hope you're well. I hope your year is started out well. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me over the chucking down rain and thunderstorms that are happening here right now. So hopefully the internet won't be disturbed. Anyway, I wanted to welcome you to this short session on navigating choppy waters with a clear plan in 2023. My name is Rob DaCosta, and I'm a former agency owner and an agency coach. And I want to talk to you about the importance of every agency having a living, dynamic plan, something that's even more vital right now in this uncertain world of high inflation and a recession and a nervous industry. So let me share my screen and we will jump right in. Switch things around. So in this really brief session, I'm going to cover why running your agency is like planning a journey and what happens when we don't have that plan. And I also want to go through a simple way of creating a plan that you are looking at every month and you're keeping your plan alive. So that's what we're going to cover in this short session. So let's jump in. So as I said, running an agency is a bit like planning a car journey, and certainly having a vision and a plan for your agency is just the same as if you were planning a journey. So let's think about this. So let's imagine we were planning a journey and we want our destination to be the south of France. So the south of France is our vision for the year for the business. Now, once we've got clarity on that vision and everyone in the organization is excited about going on that journey with us to the south of France, the next thing we've got to work out is how on earth are we going to get to the south of France? Are we going to take a plane, a ferry, a train, a car? Where are we going to stay and all the rest of it? And that is your strategy. So the vision of the destination is your why. The strategy is the how, and now we need to look at the specifics of the what. So that means, like, if we decided that actually what we're going to do is we're going to get a ferry and then we're going to take a train and then we're going to drive the rest of the way. Well, now we need to work out what time ferry we're going to catch, what train we're going to catch, making sure we book the tickets. If we're driving, we need to make sure that we don't run out of fuel and we've got somewhere to sleep for the night so we don't end up sleeping in the car. And that is our plan. So that's the simplest way of understanding a vision for your agency. So the destination is the ultimate vision. The bigger picture strategy is how you're going to get to that destination. And then your detailed plan is the specifics, the what you need to do in order to arrive there in the most pain-free way. Talking of which, if you don't have a plan, well, you might still get to the destination that you've got in mind, but you're very likely to get lost. You're going to take a lot of wrong turnings. You're going to miss that ferry. So you're going to be fairly inefficient and it's going to end up feeling very stressful. And worse still, if you don't have an overall destination in mind that you share with your team, if you've got one, then just imagine what happens. You tell your team, right, guys, let's start the year, let's get going and start delivering. And then some of your people are going to end up in the south of France, but some of them might prefer to go to Scotland, and some of them are going to be more than happy to stay exactly where they are. And you can imagine this is going to be really chaotic, everybody pulling in different directions, and it's going to be really stressful as well. Now, as silly as that sounds, that is honestly how many agencies operate. Not really having a plan, just being a bit hand to mouth, seeing what happens, relying on referrals for their business and letting the world happen to them rather than being in control of what happens. And as I say, they are at the mercy of external factors being pulled in 20 different directions, relying on word of mouth and referrals for all of their business and reacting to he who shouts loudest. And it ends up feeling like you have very little control. Now, this is especially true in a recession where the world is a much more uncertain place, and typically in a recession, word of mouth and referrals tend to dry up. So if we've relied on that in the past, which many of us do, then it's not going to work in the future. So we need a plan. We need a plan that gives us control and gives us focus and gets everybody aligned to pull in the same direction. And I'm going to share with you a super simple approach to creating a plan that I use with all my private clients, and I teach in my group coaching program. And I've applied this many, many times. My clients have, so I know it works. Now, it's worth saying at this point that even if you are a one-person business or a freelancer, then you still need a plan, because you still need a sense of where you're headed. You still need to say, am I heading in the right direction? Am I being successful? Because otherwise the option is just to see what happens and let the world happen to you. And trust me, that will lead to stress and burnout. So it's not a good place to be. So let me start by saying that one of the reasons why I think many agencies don't create a detailed plan, or perhaps they just create a finance plan with maybe some numbers around people as well, is because they get overwhelmed by the complexity of the plan. Indeed, they might follow sort of academic business school templates, or their bank or accountant might give them a template, an Excel spreadsheet to try and complete, and it just feels really overcomplicated and overwhelming and complex. So we just don't do it, because we think, well, I've operated fine in the past without one, so why do we need one now? So I totally get that. So what I teach is I try to keep it simple. I think that I apply that to everything I do, make it really pertinent and useful, and make it as simple as possible so that we can keep using it and keep it alive. And I'm going to share with you a template that I've refined over the past 16 years of coaching many agencies to make it as simple and as useful as possible. So I'm going to talk to you about a 3-page plan. And you can start implementing this concept as soon as you get off of this session today. So on page 1 of your 3-page plan, you are going to have your longer term vision. Now that's going to be different for everyone, but somewhere between 2 and 5 years. So whatever feels right for you. And then you are going to capture some of your key milestones that you want to achieve by the end of that period, let's say 3 years. So we're going to say, okay, where do we want to be in 3 years' time? And you're going to create 7 goals as a maximum. And I'll talk to you why 7 is the magic number a bit later, but you can't have more than 7 goals for that longer period of time. And you're also going to capture some financial information. So in 3 years' time, what's our revenue going to be? What is our margin? And what is our profit? Those are the 3 numbers that you really need to pay attention to. Now, at this stage, the thinking is fairly abstract. It's that blue sky thinking, because you don't want to constrain yourself with these goals. So it's important that you get a number that feels far enough in the future to not constrain you to the present, but not so far in the future that it feels way too abstract. So I say somewhere between 2 and 5 years is typically where you're going to go. And this is that destination. So this is the south of France. So in 3 years' time, where do we want to be in the agency? And as I say, you're going to capture up to 7 maximum. It could be 3, but it can't be more than 7 goals. And that is page 1 of your simple 3-page plan. Page 2, you are going to capture your 12-month plan. And just like longer term, you're going to capture the goals for the year. So what are the 7 projects as a maximum that you need to work on this year to get you to the destination that you want to be in 12 months' time? And we are then going to take that year and we're going to break it down into quarters, exactly the same process. So in the 4 quarters of the year, or in each quarter, what are the 7 projects that we need to work on this quarter, say Q1, because we're in January now, so January, February, March. What are the maximum of 7 projects that we need to work on that give us the steps towards achieving the year goal? So as I say, your quarterly targets are going to take you steps to achieving the year goal, and then your yearly targets are going to show you how you're going to take the steps towards achieving your longer term goal. So that is page 2. And again, for both the year and the quarter, you are going to identify your revenue, your profit, and your margin targets. And if you want some ideas about what a good profit margin or margins you should be working to, then do reach out to me and I'll share with you some of the insights that I've got about the agency industry. Okay, and on the 3rd page of this simple 3-page plan, guess what? We are going to now plan the month, and we are going to capture the 7 goals, the 7 projects that we're going to work on this month that are going to take us steps towards delivering the quarter. So these are like working on the agency tasks. Now, it's really important that you don't have more than 7, because you have to think about this in the context of all the other work that you've got, like the client work as well. So how much time can you dedicate to be working on the agency? And what are the 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 projects that you need to work on this month that are super crucial, that are going to take you steps towards delivering the quarterly goals? Now, that I've been saying 7 all through this, and 7 is the magic number, simply because you are busy and no one wants to have a big shopping list of things to do to work on the agency, which looks really great, but there's no chance on earth that you can do it. So when you're working out your month specifically, you do need to think about the context of all the other work. So if you've got a big launch going on for a client, or a big release of a new website that you've been doing, or a campaign, then you're not necessarily going to have 7 projects. You might only have 2 or 3, because the key every month is to get them crossed off your list, and not to have them move from one quarter to another, because if they, or one month to another, because if they do, then they couldn't have been key tasks, because you would have made them a priority otherwise. Okay, so now once we've got the month plan and we've got our 3-page plan, the next thing you want to do is transfer those monthly goals and those monthly projects from the plan into your diary, into your weekly diary. So now we have a way to connect what you do on a day-to-day basis to the month to the quarter to the year, and then the year to that longer term 3-year plan. Now, I want to give you a word of caution here, because Bill Gates summed this up really well by saying we underestimate what we can do in the long term, and we overestimate what we can do in the short term. So I want you to be really mindful of this. So let me say that again. We underestimate how much we can achieve in the longer term, but we always overestimate what we can do in the shorter term. So use that as a word of warning, because as I said, you never want to carry a project or a task or a goal from one period to the next. You always want to make sure they are crossed off. So do think about it in the context of your workload. And you may only have 2 or 3 projects. Just remember, the maximum is 7. You don't have to have 7. You just can't have more. Okay, so let me give you 2 tips to keeping this your plan alive. So tip number 1 is that you need to regularly review and update the plan based on what you know today that you didn't know yesterday or last time when you were updating the plan. Do not be scared to change your plan. You're not failing if you change your plan, but you're keeping it alive and dynamic. And this is perhaps the number 1 reason why business plans fail, because they get cast in stone once a year on that 2-day away day where you all go and do some planning, and you create this lovely plan, and you come back and share it with everybody, and then you say go, and the plan gets parked, it gathers dust on the shelf, and then a year later you look at it and go, oh yeah, we did that, and no, we didn't do that. And that's crazy, because who knows what can happen, right? There's so many things that can come along that can derail us. So we need to be looking at our plan every month, obviously to work out the following month's plan from the quarter, but also to review the quarter and the year and say, what do we know today that we didn't know last month when we updated the plan? And don't be scared to change it, because you need to keep a plan that is alive, dynamic, and living, and not one that is done once a year. So that's tip number 1. And tip number 2 is to get the buy-in from your team if you have one. So if you need to make sure that they want to go to the south of France with you, because as I said earlier, if they've all pulling in their own direction, it's going to feel a lot of friction in your agency and not much fun. Whereas if we're all aligned and we're all excited to get to the south of France, then everyone's much more likely to move in that direction, help you achieve all of the goals. So you want to share your you want to share your plan with your team, and make sure they are excited and not feeling overwhelmed by it, but they're excited to go along with you. Okay, so just in sort of 10 or 15 minutes, I've given you a really high level overview of why it's so important to create a plan. And look, we're at the beginning of the year, and there's no better time for you to be doing this planning now. I've talked to you how to keep it simple, how to make it living and dynamic, and how to break it down from bigger picture thinking to the detail for the month, and then to put it into your diary, so that you are working on it every single day. So I just want to wrap this up by, I'm not quite sure what's happened here, by telling you a little bit more about who I am, in case you don't know me. And I'm not sure what that text is. There's a bit that says overdue invoice. Anyway, excuse that. First, so I started my own marketing agency back in the early 90s, and I grew it to 25 people, turning over about 1.5 million. before I sold that agency to a larger US company. And over the past 16 years, I've worked with over 400 agencies to help them grow in a profitable, sustainable, and enjoyable way. And all of them, I've helped put their vision and their plan in place. I'm also a podcaster. I have the Agency Accelerator podcast. We're in year 4 now. So please do make sure you subscribe to that, because I not only share my own views on the agency world, but I have excellent guests come on and share their insights as well. So there's lots of learning that can take place there. And I am also the author of my book, The Self-Running Agency. And if you haven't read a copy of it, it's kind of part autobiography about my story, but also part strategy of what you need to do to build an agency that's less dependent on you, i.e. a self-running agency. And you can grab a copy of that for free simply by heading over to dacostacoaching.co.uk and /book, dacostacoaching.co.uk/book. So I'm just trying to see if there are any questions. I can't actually see people who are with me. But anyway, I hope you found that useful. This is the first of 12 monthly live trainings I'm going to do. So if you did find that useful, leave a comment. If you've got any questions about what I covered today, then leave a comment and I'll get back to you. And also, if you've got particular topics that you want me to cover, then do let me know. I'm going to talk about pricing. I'm going to talk about niching. I'm going to talk about structure of agencies and so on. So, but if you've got any topics that you want me to cover, please do leave a comment and let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day, despite the weather. I hope you have a fantastic January, and make sure you've got your plan in place so that you feel in control. No matter what external things are coming your way, you feel like you're in control of the destiny of your agency.